Since the 1995 interview we just showed you, Israeli-Palestinian relations have regressed dramatically. Yasser Arafat, once seen as someone who could bring an end to that conflict, died a man tagged by President Bush and Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon as one of the biggest obstacles to peace. 1995 seems so long ago. We'll be back tomorrow night. Until then, stay with CNN, your most trusted name in news. Good night.
This is CNN Saturday Night. The battle for Fallujah, a heroic victory over the insurgents, or a political strategy for the West to strong-arm the Sunnis? I've got the debate, analysis, and amazing new pictures from our Nick Robertson, who's embedded with the Marines. The vice president short of breath and tested at the hospital. Dick Cheney's health is in the news again. And she stood by her man and wielded international influence with her pillbox hat and Ole Cassini jackets. The gowns, the letters, the confessions of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis for $25 admission. These stories and a lot more next on CNN Saturday Night. I'm Carol Lynn from the CNN Center in Atlanta. In this hour, the biggest names in the Middle East and the unthinkable prospect that peace is not necessarily in everyone's plans. Our spotlight tackles that very, very big question. And then the prospect of seeing Scott Peterson finally take the stand. Well, that's at least what I'm going to be talking about with Chris Darden. Remember him? He prosecuted O.J. Simpson. Also, our rap sheets got the best of what happened when the guilty verdict went down. And in our last call, we want to hear from you about the Peterson verdict. Do you think Scott Peterson should get life in prison or death by lethal injection? But up first tonight, occupied, not subdued, almost finished. That is the cautious language used in the past few hours by U.S. and Iraqi officials. They say the lion's share of the mission to secure Fallujah is behind them. It's been an especially ferocious week in Fallujah, with rising casualties among U.S. and Iraqi forces, the insurgents and those caught in between them. It's a city turned free fire zone, and CNN senior international correspondent Nick Robertson is there tonight.
The Marines are going street by street, house by house in their areas of operation, clearing those houses where they believe insurgents may be. But what is happening at the same time is those insurgents, in some cases, see them coming, open fire on them with perhaps sniper fire, perhaps machine gun fire, perhaps rocket-propelled grenades, and engage them. And what one Marine officer told me he was concerned was that the insurgents know the city. They know the places to hide, and the advantage is with them, that they can wait for the Marines to come by, perhaps wait for the Marines to move into an area, and then go ahead and attack them. And that is what is happening. However, the commander of the Marine Battalion we've been embedded with said that his Marines were tactically working much more efficiently than the insurgents, who he said had plenty of weapons but not the expertise and skills to use them. The Marines, on the other hand, he said, were using overwhelming coordinated firepower, better tactics, and in every engagement with the insurgents, he said that the Marines had the upper hand. They were either capturing the insurgents or killing them. Now, in some of these engagements, Marines have been injured, but the challenge that appears to face the Marines at this time is when they go house to house, clearing the buildings, then they move on to another area. Who is available to secure those buildings behind them? Who is there to prevent the insurgents moving around from another part of the city, occupying those buildings? And that is something that is very much on the Marines' minds at this time. Certainly, the vast majority of the initial phase of the operations in Fallujah, clearing the whole city, is done. But those groups of insurgents still pose a significant danger. When the Marines we were embedded with earlier today, the commander there told me that he'd had, in the last 24 hours or so, no injuries. Within a couple of hours of us leaving him, his unit, his company, had received or suffered 6 wounds. They were light wounds, but again, that was with an insurgent attack from a building where the Marines had no idea that the insurgents were located there.
All right, Nick was just talking about some of the injuries. Well, more than 100 American troops have been wounded in the Fallujah fighting, and many are now, well, hundreds of miles from Iraq in a U.S. military hospital in Germany. More than 70 troops, most walking, but some on stretchers, arrived today at Ramstein Air Base. Military officials aren't yet saying exactly how many service members are hurt or the nature of their wounds just yet. Iraq's U.S. appointed leader today said that he is as committed as ever to his duties, despite this week's kidnapping of two of his relatives. Interim Prime Minister Iyad Allawi visited Iraqi and Italian forces today in Nasiriyah, southeast of Baghdad. And a militant group says it has Allawi's cousin and the cousin's pregnant daughter-in-law. The kidnappers say they will behead them, to which Allawi said he is not going to respond to threats.
I am not going to be deterred by this. I have been in this place. Saddam killed my brother, terrorized my family in the old days, tried to kill me. The same thing is happening now. We don't mind. Our concern really is the Iraqi people and the safety of Iraq.
That was Iraq's interim Prime Minister Iyad Allawi there. Now, a family spokesman says the fate of the hostages is not exactly known just yet. So given today's reports of progress in Fallujah and the optimism expressed by the Iraqi and U.S. leadership, is it still too early to exhale? So I'm going to talk to our military analyst right now, retired Air Force Major General Don Shepard. General, good to have you on this evening, especially given the status of this battle. We understand north to south, coalition troops now have control of most parts of Fallujah, but the shooting war is still going on. So what's your assessment of what's going to happen next?
Yeah, my assessment, Carol, is you're right on the mark to say it's not time to exhale yet. I think rather than say they've got control of the city, what they've done is they have occupied the city, and they're now going house by house behind them to assure that those houses are really cleared. But the next step is to subdue the city, clear out all of these pockets, and it's difficult. Every time you knock down a house, it's more places for people to hide. It covers up tunnels and that type of thing. The third thing you've got to do is you then have to control it so you can bring in the aid and humanitarian aid you need to put the city back on its feet. And finally, you have to rebuild it. All of those are separate steps, and we've just done the first one, and it's not time to exhale at all.
And there's a critical juncture here, too, because while they have much of the city secured, the fighting is still going on. Humanitarian workers say they are not going to wait for the fighting to stop. They are now penetrating into the city to try to help what they say are wounded civilians. How is this going to complicate the battle scene?
It complicates it in several ways. First of all, when the Marines move through the city, somebody has to secure the area behind them. Right now, it's being done by U.S. troops. What you want to do is turn this over to Iraqi troops or Iraqi National Guardsmen or Iraqi policemen. And the question remains whether or not they're able to do that to free up our forces to go to other areas. Now, with the humanitarian aid coming in, which you want to get in there as soon as possible, you have to be concerned for their security as well. You have to be able to protect these people, or they will be killed or captured, or they will leave, which then makes your problem even worse. It's
right.
desperately difficult.
You're pointing to a situation which could go from bad to worse right now.
It can indeed. That's the danger of all of these things, is that instead of gaining control of the city and gaining the cooperation of the people and pointing for a direction for the future where you've got security, it goes the other way. It's always a danger, and you still don't know which way this is going to go yet.
General, well, obviously we're very dependent on the military, frankly, giving us the information in this situation. Our reporters are embedded and at the mercy of not being able to do independent reporting. You take a look at some of these numbers: 1,000 insurgents dead, 200 captured. Is there anything fishy about those numbers to you? Does that seem like an awful lot?
You know, I'm always suspicious of numbers, no matter who they're issued by. At first, we were told that the whole insurgency in the country was 2,500, and now we were told there's 25,000 throughout the country. We were told there were 3,000 fighters in Fallujah, and now we're told 1,000 of them have been killed, 200 captured. I don't think that these are reliable figures. They are simply estimates. And, of course, the military is going to put the best face on it possible. That's just something we have to deal with. And the reporters are not able to operate independently because of the security situation.
Right, because potentially the repercussions, if it's not 1,000 insurgents, let's say it's 500 insurgents and 500 civilians, and if the idea is to win over the hearts and minds of the Sunnis for the upcoming January elections, this is not going to bode well.
Indeed, you're not going to win over the hearts and minds of the Sunnis for the election. The best you can hope to do is provide a security situation where those that are willing to risk voting can do that. And it is really a race to see if you can gain the Sunni cooperation in this election and have the election mean something so you can go the next step, which is the follow-on election in December of '05 for the real government.
Major General Don Shepard, thank you very much. We've got much more on this because, again, we want to get another perspective. Former CIA Iraq expert and now CNN analyst Ken Pollack is going to join me. He warns that many of the mistakes made going into Baghdad are once again being made in Fallujah. Could be a high price to pay, so stick around for that one. In the meantime, days ago, it was said that it would be impossible. But after a series of dramatic twists and turns, jurors in the Scott Peterson trial handed down a unanimous guilty verdict yesterday. And today, emotions are still running high. CNN's David Mattingly joins me now from Los Angeles. David, I know it came as a surprise to many people that the verdict came in so quickly after 2 jurors had to be switched out this week. What are folks telling you today about the guilty verdict?
Well, Carol, almost since the moment that the verdict was read, there have been some very public displays of emotion here, none of it in Scott Peterson's favor. A crowd of hundreds outside the San Mateo County Courthouse greeted the guilty verdict with cheers. The reaction was the same in Scott and Lacey Peterson's hometown of Modesto.
He's a rotten person. I mean, they proved how bad a person that man is.
At the house where prosecutors say Peterson killed his pregnant wife before dumping her body in San Francisco Bay, people from all over the country continue to send flowers.
If you look at the emotion of this case, you could convict him 5 times over, and I think that's what happened here.
Justin Falconer was kicked off the jury in June after making a brief comment to Lacey Peterson's brother. Juror Frances Gorman was dismissed last Tuesday after conducting outside research during deliberations. In spite of a gag order, she told San Francisco affiliate KTVU she agreed with the verdict.
My understanding from the judge is that I'm gagged until the jurors are released, which I believe is after the final penalty phase and after they are released. So that's about all I can say. I can tell you, if I was the 13th juror, I'd be in there saying, go get him.
Anti-Peterson sentiments were so strong after the verdict, the Peterson family was taunted by people in the crowd as they exited the courthouse. Now facing a possible death sentence, Peterson remains in his cell, awaiting the legal fight for his life. And that fight will be in front of the same jury that unanimously found him guilty. The best sentence he can hope for at this point is life behind bars without parole. Carol?
So quickly, David, what happens next?
A week from Monday, the jury will come back. They will hear arguments from both sides. The prosecutors will continue to seek the death penalty. His defense attorneys will argue that Scott Peterson should not receive the death penalty. We should have a decision in what they call this penalty phase sometime shortly after Thanksgiving.
All right, it's going to happen pretty quick. Thanks very much, David Mattingly, live in Redwood City. Well, the Peterson trial turned into an absolute media circus. Someone who's familiar with that kind of environment, that kind of hype, high-profile trial. A former O.J. Simpson prosecutor and CNN legal analyst now, Christopher Darden. Chris, good to have you.
Good to see you.
You take a look at this situation. I mean, one of the jurors whom David Mattingly included in his piece, Justin Falconer, a former juror, said that this jury made its decision strictly on emotion. He did not see the hard evidence there. Do you think that's what happened, given that many people said that in the O.J. case, too?
Well, you know, it's certainly a possibility that some emotion entered into the jury's decision. However, it was a case based on circumstantial evidence. It could go either way, depending on what inferences the jury decided to draw from that evidence. And I got to tell you, I can't criticize this jury. I can't criticize them in terms of the length of time it took for them to come to a verdict, and I can't criticize them for the decision they made based on the evidence they received.
Scott Peterson sat there stone-faced as the verdict was read. Did that bug you?
Yeah, it bugged me, and I'm sure it will bug some of the jurors as well. I mean, the fact is that his life is now in their hands, and if those jurors conclude that Scott Peterson is a cold-blooded killer, they might very well decide that he deserves a trip to death row.
So doesn't that mean that his defense attorneys are almost compelled to have Scott Peterson testify on his behalf and his character and plead for mercy and show remorse?
Well, I don't think that's possible. You can't show remorse unless you first admit that you committed the crime. And Scott Peterson is not about to admit that he committed the crime. Now, whether or not he gets the death penalty is going to turn on a couple of things. Number one, what would Laci's family like the jury to do? And number two, the jury's going to go back and look at the circumstances surrounding this crime. They're going to look at Scott Peterson's character and background. This is a man who had so little consideration for his wife and child that he essentially fed them to the fish. A lot of people don't think he'll get the death penalty, but it's a strong possibility.
Why wouldn't he get the
that
death penalty? I mean, on what basis would he not get the death penalty?
Well, he doesn't have any prior history of any type of criminal conduct. I'm sure the defense can drag into court any number of people who will talk about Scott Peterson's good deeds in life. An argument, perhaps.
We'll probably see baby pictures. Right. We'll see baby pictures. We'll see
baby pictures. His mom, Scott Peterson's mom may come in and beg for his life as well.
What about he himself, though? Do you think he should take the stand in any capacity in the penalty phase?
Absolutely not. I mean, his case, I think, is a very appealable case, although we don't know exactly what happened in terms of the removal of jurors. But, there's always some potential or possibility that this conviction could be overturned. He should not admit his guilt. So you can't get up on the stand and say, I'm sorry, if you don't first say I did it.
So you're concerned that 3 jurors in total were kicked off that panel during the course of this trial?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, of course, we're starting to hear from jurors, and what's important is what happened with the last 2 jurors and in which way were they leaning, guilty or not guilty. If either one was leaning toward a not guilty and yet was kicked off based on, I don't know, some email or fax the court received from some anonymous individual, well, if that's true, this becomes a very appealable case.
Wow. All right. Thanks very much, Christopher Darden. That's going to lead us to our last call question tonight. Do you think Scott Peterson should get the death penalty? Give us a call at 1-800-807-2620. Later, Gloria Gomez, she's going to talk to me about the drama at the Peterson trial this week and whether she believes Scott Peterson is going to be sentenced to death. Gloria Gomez with KOVR has reported from this case from the very beginning. She's always got the inside scoop. All right, Lynn Cheney, we've been talking about her husband today, the vice president. She apologized to reporters this evening, saying that she's sorry we ruined your Saturday. She and her husband, the vice president, spent a lot of the day at a Washington hospital. The Cheneys are all smiles and thumbs up now, but those close to the vice president have good reason to worry when he's not feeling well. Elaine Quijano reports on that.
Vice President Dick Cheney smiled and waved to reporters as he walked out of George Washington University Hospital Saturday. Just beyond camera range, Cheney said he felt fine. His wife Lynn was asked how she felt and briefly replied, "We're great, thank you." About 5 hours before, the vice president told an advisor he felt shortness of breath and on the advice of his cardiologist headed to the hospital for tests. Aides say Mr. Cheney had been suffering from a cold after returning from an annual hunting trip in South Dakota. A statement from Cheney's doctor, Jonathan Reiner, and released by the White House, said tests ruled out any cardiac cause of the vice president's symptoms. Tests also ruled out pneumonia and other pulmonary causes. The vice president likely has a viral upper respiratory infection. Mr. Cheney, who suffered the first of 4 heart attacks at age 37, has had quadruple bypass surgery and a stent to open a blocked artery, which doctors later had to reopen.
Vice President Cheney's doctor says that Mr. Cheney is now back at his residence. As for President Bush, White House officials say that Chief of Staff Andy Card notified the president by early this afternoon. Elaine Quijano, CNN, the White House.
Lynn Cheney is going to be on Late Edition tomorrow with Wolf. They're going to talk about a lot of ground, including her husband's health, obviously, and the re-election and another term in Washington. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. But tonight, the future of the Middle East and a contrarian point of view. In our spotlight, senior international correspondent Walter Rogers and some of the biggest names who have the power to make change. On the front lines in Fallujah, our hot topic asks whether military planners are making the same fatal mistakes from a year ago.
Delphi's satellite navigation systems are helping drivers feel secure no matter where they are.
This doesn't look right.
Let's check. And now, that same technology can be used for remote tracking of trucks to help verify the proper driver and make sure he stays on the right route. On the track, Delphi's connectors and sensors transmit 1,000 crucial measurements every second. And now that same technology can help collect medical data that's even more critical.
Todo luce bien.
With a smooth ride, available navigation system, and luxuriously quiet interior, the new Jeep Liberty Limited Edition makes you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, even when you're not. Get 0% financing plus November bonus cash for a total savings of up to $3,700 on one of America's hottest 4x4s.
CNN Sunday. Scott Peterson, guilty. Plus Yasser Arafat's legacy. Paula Zahn hosts People in the News. CNN Sunday night, 7 Eastern.
This is my high-speed class. Okay, so then that's me, Mr. Webb. I'm teaching them all about Comcast high-speed internet.
I'm used to dial-up.
This is Robin.
This high-speed internet is scary.
She's a little nervous, but she'll learn. That's Murph. He's just here for the fantasy sports.
It's gonna be on the final.
And Ricky here's a film student and video mail guru. So many faces, so eager to learn.
Sprint's White Bridge Road always has a huge selection of art, but this weekend we're having an exclusive original art sale. We're bringing in over 500 pieces of art just for this sale. Whether you want framed or unframed, contemporary or traditional, Sprint's has it and it's all on sale. You'll find fabulous original art priced from $300 to $5,000. Plus, 12 months, no interest, no payments on everything in the store. It's going on this Friday through Sunday only at Sprint's White Bridge Road.
Exclusive. Martha Stewart's daughter, Alexis. Larry King, CNN tomorrow.
All right, back now to our hour's top story. One of the past week's top stories, actually, the U.S.-led assault on Fallujah. After sweeping through the city for 7 days, street by street, door to door, Iraqi security officials declared today that with the exception of a few pockets of fighters, Fallujah is essentially now under U.S. control. Well, one man's not so sure. Ken Pollack, he's a Middle East scholar and formerly on the National Security Council and one of our regulars and the author of a new book. Ken, you actually believe that the U.S. forces may win this battle, but in the end lose the war. Why is that?
Well, that's exactly what I'm afraid of, Carol. And you mentioned earlier in your teaser, which is that I'm worried that we're making the same mistakes today that we made 19 months ago. 19 months ago, Baghdad fell in a brilliant military campaign. You cannot fault the invasion of Iraq. The problem was we had no plan for the political and economic reconstruction of Iraq. And today, you talk to our military personnel, again, they're doing a brilliant job taking down Fallujah. I've heard nothing to contradict that they didn't do a marvelous job there. The problem is, and they will say it, they don't know if we have, once again, the political and economic plan to make sure that Fallujah comes over to the reconstruction and doesn't go back to the insurgents when they're gone.
Well, I mean, but many people would also say 1,000 insurgents dead, 200 now captured. The message is sent, don't mess around with the U.S. military or the coalition.
Yeah, there's certainly that, and I want to say that this was a short-term victory. You can't take it away. If we're going to have elections in the end of January, and the president has said we're going to, you've got to have Fallujah under control. We've demonstrated that so we can at least have the elections in Fallujah. But by the same token, the way that you win an insurgency is not killing insurgents. As long as the people support the insurgency, and the people of Western Iraq, the Sunni Triangle, continue to support the insurgency, as long as they do so, they will find another 1,000. That was the lesson of Vietnam. The body counts are irrelevant.
The body counts are irrelevant, but, you know, frankly, that's how we're keeping the scorecard here. And some cynics are even saying, well, look, the plan all along was to make sure that the U.S. or the coalition had physical control of a trouble spot that could be trouble during the election and try to swing the Sunnis our way during the January elections. Now they have the capacity to do so simply because U.S. and Iraqi forces are physically there.
Well, certainly we're going to have the presence to allow Sunnis to vote. As I said, that's important. That is a short-term victory. But the question of whether or not you can bring the Sunnis around to reconstruction is a completely different issue. And it has nothing to do with killing insurgents. It's all about whether we can convince the Sunnis that they should want to be part of this new Iraq we're building. So far, we have signally failed to do so. And that is entirely an economic and a political problem. And as I said, the U.S. military knows it. And that's what they're terrified of. They're terrified that they will take down Fallujah, and 6 months from now they will have to come back to Fallujah because there will be a new group of insurgents there.
You really think that they care that much? I mean, Ken, don't you think that the U.S. military and the planners have the foresight to, if they really cared about the Sunnis, frankly, in this election process, I mean, really, don't they just want to stop the violence long enough to have elections so that the U.S. can form some kind of an exit strategy?
Boy, I hope that is wrong, Carol. I mean, I don't know for certain. I don't know what is in the minds of Secretary Rumsfeld and President Bush, but I really hope that they are as committed as they say they are, because if all they're looking for is to get control over this country long enough to hold the elections and then leave, Iraq is going to fall apart afterwards, and then we're going to wind up dealing with real disaster in the Middle East for a decade or more.
All right, so if you're saying that your sources are telling you that they don't have a plan after this battle, then, I mean, all indications are that they maybe they really don't care and that it is a short-term solution. Because wouldn't it be pie in the sky to think, all right, line up the humanitarian aid, line up the reconstruction plan, rebuild schools, patch up roads, hold the hands of the Sunnis, try to get them to the elections and on our side?
Well, I think there are two different problems at work here, Carl. First, in some cases, I'm not certain that the U.S. government has kind of internalized the need for this kind of a plan. Again, this was the problem that we saw after the fall of Baghdad. The Department of Defense, the civilians that is, had an idea about what was going to happen in Iraq after the invasion. It was a bad idea. It was the idea that Ahmed Chalabi was basically going to take over the country. That proved to be wrong. I think here as well, it may be the case that they do have some ideas about what's going to happen in Fallujah. It just may be wrong. The other problem out there is that they're having a great deal of difficulty making the U.S. bureaucracy do what they'd like it to do. So they've got $18 billion in the pipeline. That's very important money. That could make a huge difference in the Sunni triangle. But they are not able to get it through the U.S. bureaucracy. That requires a much greater deal of leadership from the top, from President Bush, to say to the bureaucracy, this is critical that we get this money into Iraq.
All right. Well, it's certainly not going to happen in the next week as this battle winds down, so we'll have to watch what happens. Ken, congratulations on the new book, The Persian Puzzle. Saw you on The Daily Show. You held your own, I must say.
About all you can do with Jon Stewart. He's just too quick.
You bet. All right. Thanks so much, Ken Pollack.
Thank you, Carol.
Well, in other news, the fascination with a woman who used her feminine charms to woo a nation. 6 gowns, the personal effects of Jackie Kennedy on exhibit in Chicago. This woman knew how to wield her power, and it came in the form of a pillbox hat. And jurors in Scott Peterson's double murder trial took just a few hours to reach a guilty verdict. The rap sheet tackles his life or death sentence. And don't forget our last call question. Do you think Scott Peterson should get the death penalty? Give us a call at 1-800-807-2620.
The promise of broadband internet access is great for those who have it. But for those living in rural areas or in older apartment buildings, broadband is usually just a dream. Yet that dream could be closer to reality with a new wireless technology called WiMAX. Not to be confused with Wi-Fi, which delivers a broadband signal to a small area measured in feet. WiMAX is wireless broadband access that can be gauged in miles. The goal is to be a third option alongside DSL and cable modems, but WiMAX won't be available until late 2005 at the earliest, leaving dial-up as the sole choice for some users until then.
Wireless Life is sponsored by Intel Centrino Mobile Technology and by Panasonic Toughbook, computers for the outside world. Log on to cnn.com/wirelesslife to learn more on how to protect yourself on online security.
See what it's like to fly. Get a wireless laptop with technology designed for mobile performance. Make sure it has Intel Centrino mobile technology built in.
Panasonic Toughbook PC is powered with Intel Centrino mobile technology. Panasonic, ideas for life.
Whoa. Oh. The all-new Dodge Dakota.
Nice, yeah.
With the only V8 in its class.
This is gonna look great in our bedroom. You are such an
And the most overall interior room.
wonderful man.
Now get 0% financing plus November bonus cash for up to $3,400 in total savings on the all-new Dakota.
This season, give the gift of John Madden and Dale Jarrett's Holiday CD.
A whole lot of sacks, and it's only the first one.
A collection of 20 all-time classics.
Holidays are the pitch
As only John and Dale can sing them.
North Pole position.
For a gift people will actually want, come in now to Outback Steakhouse and buy holiday gift certificates today.
CNN Next. A CNN investigation. Inside Saudi Arabia. Is it a breeding ground for terrorism? Can the royal family control Al-Qaeda? Or are they headed for a political meltdown? With unprecedented access, CNN's Nick Robertson journeys inside the closed society.
It's a view of Saudi Arabia you haven't seen before.
A special CNN presents Kingdom on the Brink. CNN coming up next.
Taking a look at the headlines tonight and tomorrow, the battle for Fallujah is all but over. U.S. and Iraqi forces are now said to be operating in all parts of the city. But military officials warn troops could still encounter pockets of resistance. Wounded in Iraq, recovering in Germany. Dozens of U.S. troops injured in Fallujah arrive at U.S. military hospitals today. Some of the injured were walking, others were on stretchers. And a founder of the rap group Wu-Tang Clan is dead. Russell Jones, who was known as Old Dirty Bastard, died today at age 35. Jones's success was followed by years of trouble with the law. No word on the cause of his death. On our rap sheet tonight, the same jurors who convicted Scott Peterson of murder must now decide whether he lives or dies. Gloria Gomez has been covering the Peterson trial for CNN affiliate KOVR from day one. She's even broken some news, and some of her tape was even used during closing arguments by the prosecution. Gloria, you become a part of this whole thing. What was your reaction to the verdict?
How are you?
Hi there. What was your reaction to the verdict?
Well, I have to tell you, Carol, I think the most compelling part was the pre-verdict, is what I'm calling it. And this was when juror number 11, the African-American woman, sits in her chair, turns to Sharon Rocha, Lacey Peterson's mother, and gives her a, like,
oh,
we got
really?
him. And that was very compelling, Carol, because clearly everybody in my row saw that. We're all like, whoa, did you see that?
Yeah, I hadn't heard that reported.
We thought, yeah, and after that, we knew it wasn't going to go good for Scott Peterson, Carol.
Wow. So the mood in the courtroom as the verdict was read. And
absolutely tense, I can tell you. When the verdict was read, I looked at Scott Peterson, absolutely stone-faced.
Did that bother you? I was just talking with Christopher Darden, our legal analyst, about that, and it bugged him. You know, clearly being a prosecutor, having a background as a prosecutor. But did that bother you? Or surprise you?
It didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me at all, because whenever I would come to him with breaking news I was going to report, he would just absolutely be disconnected. Every time I would say, listen, I'm going to report this, he would be like, oh, okay, are you going to put Lacey's picture on there?
Seriously.
So it was almost like he wasn't getting my message.
Right.
And clearly, when the jurors were, you know, when you're hearing guilty, 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 it was just like, okay,
right,
you know,
right.
And I looked to see what his mother was doing, and no reaction from her either.
Well, now, his family, did I hear, they were booed either inside the courtroom or just outside the courtroom?
You know, That was pretty disturbing, Carol, because actually there was just hundreds of people waiting outside the courthouse. I had no idea when I walked out that I would see a sea of people out there. Sure enough, I was out there, and Jackie Peterson walked out, and all of a sudden we heard boos and really nasty remarks being yelled at her. Very, very inappropriate. Obviously, the mother should be left alone.
Yeah, she wasn't part of this crime.
This was very, very difficult to see a really mob mentality when she came out.
So have you heard anything about how the defense is going to handle the penalty phase? Do you think they're going to have Scott Peterson do anything like take the stand on his own behalf in any capacity?
You know, most of the legal experts believe no. Scott Peterson will not take the stand based on how he did with those interviews, based on how he did on those wiretap calls. I think your best bet is not to put Scott on the stand, but put his parents on the stand and really beg for mercy from this jury and ask them to spare Scott Peterson's life.
Does he have anybody else in line who can testify to his character or why he should live?
Well, he's got other family members that can come in. I'm sure they could find friends that obviously grew up with Scott Peterson and put them on the stand to obviously talk about his character and how they knew Scott Peterson. But, you know, at the same token, Carol, you're going to have the prosecution bring in Sharon Rocha and describe how her life has been turned upside down because of this.
Doesn't sound like there's a lot of wiggle room. So what about chances for an appeal? Chris Darden was guessing that the fact that 3 jurors were booted off this panel in the course of this trial may be a foundation for a good appeal.
Well, that's a problem because juror number 5, Dr. Lawyer, who was in there, this was a guy who was a very meticulous guy. He liked to go and take notes. He had close to 19 notepads. He wanted to take this jury step by step. I almost saw it as a jury revolt. It almost like he wanted to take them through this long-winded investigation. And they were like, no, listen, let's focus on a couple of things here that we really need to focus on. And apparently he just probably got outvoted, and then he went to the judge, from what I'm hearing, several times to get out, and then finally the judge did dismiss him. So is that a chance for appeal? I don't know. I'm sure Mark Garagos is thinking about that.
Yeah.
He's also thinking probably about that boat demonstration, Carol, that he never got to show the jury, where he says the boat capsized, proving that Scott Peterson couldn't have done this.
Right. Your gut feeling, Gloria, where did this turn for the jury?
I'm going to have to say when Amber Frey testified and everything after Amber, it was like a wave.
That early on?
It was like I think so. That early on, the jury got to hear Scott Peterson's lies on tape. He got to hear another, a victim of Scott Peterson's. The prosecution says Amber is a victim of Scott Peterson. And there she was in the flesh talking about how he lied to her, how he deceived her, how he charmed her, how he told her weeks before Lacey Peterson disappeared that he had lost his wife and this would be his first holidays without her. Pretty compelling stuff.
Yeah, telling words that came back to haunt in the closing arguments.
Right.
Gloria, you going to hang with us through the penalty phase?
Oh, absolutely.
You bet. All right, you always have great stuff. Thank you very much. Gloria Gomez, KOVR.
You're welcome.
Well, don't forget our last call question. Do you think Scott Peterson should get the death penalty? Give us a call at 1-800-807-2620. Now, with Yasser Arafat gone, big questions remain tonight on the future of the Middle East peace process. But up next in our spotlight, our senior international correspondent Walter Rogers and the newsmakers who struggle to make a difference.
Okay, when we're all done, I'm calling Mom, Mom calls Glenn, Glenn calls Kim.
I'm calling him.
Glenn calls Kim.
Who's calling me?
I'm calling you.
And I'm calling him.
Exactly.
Wait.
What?
We don't have cell phones. I don't have a cell phone.
Actually, I don't have a cell phone either.
Sign up for the Verizon Wireless Family Share Plan within, and the whole family can make unlimited calls to each other and any other Verizon Wireless customer when calling from the America's Choice coverage area. Plus, buy one Samsung A650 for $29.99 and get one free.
Everyone know who they're calling?
No.
Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
From Philips comes the only flat TV with built-in ambient light technology, which changes color with whatever you're watching, so you are completely surrounded by the experience. The new Philips Flat TV with Ambilight.
Make your holiday meal extra special. Try Boston Market's delicious new whole roasted turkey or bone-in spiral sliced ham. They come fully cooked with scrumptious sides. Just heat them up and take the credit. Order today. Boston Market. We're always cooking.
Let's talk about better. When someone says something's better, it's usually just their opinion. So if you suffer from acid reflux disease, frequent heartburn, and I told you prescription Nexium heals acid-related damage in the esophagus better, you'd want proof. And now, your doctor has that proof. Recent medical studies prove Nexium heals that damage better than the other leading prescription medicine. No wonder they call Nexium the healing purple pill. This is big news, so call your doctor today and ask if Nexium is right for you. Because if left untreated, the damage could get worse. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. The most common side effects of Nexium are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Hey, with Nexium, you don't just feel better, you are better. And better is better. For a free trial offer for Nexium, visit us at purplepill.com or call 1-800-4NEXIUM.
What's a Bamzoo?
It's home decor and a music store.
Is there more?
Baby booties and Hollywood movies, telephones and garden gnomes, pots and pans and wedding bands.
So, what's a Bamzoo?
Bamzoo is one-stop shopping for many of the great products advertised on Turner Broadcasting.
Networks like TBS, CNN, and TNT?
Exactly. Bamzoo.com is a convenient and safe place to shop online.
So, it's not an exotic fruit?
No.
A tropical island?
Just log on and see for yourself.
Starvation diets, quickie facelifts, superfoods. CNN, all next week. How far would you go to turn back the clock? Inside America's obsession with staying young. Anderson Cooper 360, Eternal Youth. All next week, CNN 7 Eastern.
In the spotlight tonight, taking the historic events in the Middle East this week a step further. Yes, Yasser Arafat is dead, and yes, he was an obstacle to peace in many ways. But it's not that simple. CNN senior international correspondent Walt Rogers shows who, in the end, may have the last word.
Palestinians furiously firing rifles at Yasser Arafat's funeral. Out of this Palestinian grief, anger, and defiance, Western leaders speak of rebuilding a framework for peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
I mean, we'll do that what it takes to put a strategy in place and advance it and call upon other nations to develop, to work with us.
Conventional wisdom holds Yasser Arafat was the obstacle to peace, and with him gone, new opportunities will arise. But Israel's fight with the Palestinians is more about God and land than about Arafat. Still, with him dead, some Israeli hawks are sounding slightly more dovish.
Now that he's gone, I think, for the first time, that there's a chance, just a chance.
Yet the new Palestinian leadership is weaker than Arafat. They may well fight among themselves. The catalyst, perhaps, Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's unilateral withdrawal of settlers and troops from Gaza. That divides and weakens Palestinians politically and geographically. Gaza versus the West Bank Palestinians, fighting over Arafat's legacy. Looking into a possible abyss, Palestinians sound almost desperate.
Help us with the elections, help us resume a meaningful peace process, and I would urge the Israelis to take the high road, the road of courage and wisdom.
But Sharon has shown less interest in finding a peace partner than in making Israel more secure. Privately, Sharon has said the idea of a Palestinian state should be postponed 25 years, although he knows some Palestinian entity will emerge and he wants to control the terms. Reality checks, however, do not extinguish enthusiasm.
I think if the United States and Israel put our shoulder, and the Europeans as well, put our shoulders to the wheel and did everything we could to make it possible for the Palestinians to hold elections to pick their new leader, that's the best way to forestall chaos or violence in a power struggle to succeed Arafat.
Yet violence is what has been driving the Middle East recently, and there is simply no longer a constituency for peace among Israelis. The same can be said for a majority of Palestinians. They no longer like nor trust the United States. Arafat's Oslo peace process failed them too, and events seem increasingly to play into the hands of radicals. Walter Rogers, CNN.
We'll be right back.
Soon departing for the unimaginable. Cirque du Soleil and celebrity cruises. A true departure.
Life offers a simple formula for long-term success. Protect what really matters. Grow it with care. That's our approach to planning for your future at Prudential Retirement. For decades, we've used our strength to help people and organizations plan for retirement with intelligent retirement solutions designed to both grow wealth and protect it. Growth and protection. The strong and steady approach to retirement at Prudential Financial.
I'm ready to fight my cancer.
I'm ready to begin chemotherapy.
I really am ready because I'm going to take Neulasta right from the start to help protect me from infection.
Chemotherapy can reduce your white blood cell count and increase your risk of infection, which could put your treatment on hold. But Neulasta is a white blood cell booster that can help restore your white blood cell count to reduce your risk of infection. And with a sufficient white blood cell count, your doctor may have a better chance of giving you your chemo on schedule, which doctors agree is the first step to success. Neulasta is for most cancer patients receiving strong chemotherapy. In rare cases, splenic rupture or serious allergic reactions have been reported. Report abdominal or shoulder pain or any allergic reaction to your doctor immediately. The most common side effect of this injection is mild to moderate bone pain.
I'm ready to start.
I'm ready to fight.
I'm ready. Thanks to Neulasta.
Ask your doctor about Neulasta and how you can be ready for chemotherapy.
CNN Sunday, Inside the Administration. What's planned for the next 4 years? A special interview with the wife of the Vice President, Lynn Cheney. Trust Wolf and Late Edition. CNN Sunday, noon Eastern.
CNN Next, a CNN investigation. Inside Saudi Arabia. Is it a breeding ground for terrorism? A special CNN presents Kingdom on the Brink. CNN coming up next.
When I say mother of two, fashion plate, married to a womanizing but powerful man, any number of compromising women might actually come to mind. The fact that Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis's mystique endures 40 years later is a testament to the clever way she used her position and power. Chicago Field's museum exhibit of 70 articles of clothing and personal letters and effects opened today. Earlier, I talked with Frank Riggs, curator of the John F. Kennedy Library and Museum, about America's fascination with Camelot's First Lady.
She certainly had a magical appeal and a great dignity, a great sense of style, highly intelligent person, brilliant woman who represented America so well. And I think people look back on that as a time when they felt proud of our country and particularly of our First Lady.
Frank, you know what? I mean, what I find interesting about this woman is, as I myself, as a modern career woman, see how Jacqueline Kennedy found her power and influence through, frankly, very feminine means. I mean, she made a public statement about this country and her husband's administration through fashion.
That's true. It wasn't just fashion, though. There was certainly, the fashion became the most visible aspect of that. And being a young woman, you know, people were very interested in what she wore, and she certainly saw the way she presented herself as very important, as she was always very conscious of representing our country here at home and abroad.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples of how she would ever so carefully orchestrate what she wore on presidential trips and to dinners. She carefully thought out exactly what she was going to wear and what sort of an impact it was going to have.
Well, I think you see it in the selection of colors, solid colors that could be seen in a crowd, fabrics that did not wrinkle, fabrics that would not normally be worn in clothes, but I think also more sensitively in terms of incorporating design elements into her costumes that were part of the culture of the country she visited.
For example?
Whether it was India, well, in India where she wore coats that were modeled on the sort of coats worn in India, colors in Latin America that reflected the bright sun colors that were popular there, or in France, paying tribute to the great French designers such as Hubert de Givenchy. But I think we're also, anxious to let people know, and I think the visitors who come here know that was just the beginning, because in her work as First Lady, and she always said she hoped people realized there was something underneath the pillbox hat.
Because she herself even questioned why people had such a fascination with her appearance. She wrote once in one of the letters that you have on display, "What does my hairdo have to do with my husband's ability to be president?"
Well, exactly. She saw it as a small piece of, her total self-presentation. Everything that she was associated with, she wanted to be first-rate, and that included the White House, and she felt the White House did not measure up as a center for the nation to be proud of, and she set about restoring its historic heritage and published the guidebook to explain its history, brought back historic furnishings and art, and just made it into a stage where the president would be seen as the leader, a place where citizens could go to learn about our history and heritage, and a place where the nation's visitors could be entertained in appropriate fashion. And then, she invited the great artists of the country to perform there and celebrated everything that was excellent about our country.
Excellent about our country. A legacy lives on. In our top story, a city no longer under siege. Up next, all the drama, the tension, the Battle of Fallujah, a campaign picture diary.
Life. Technology. Dell can build a PC that'll help you get more out of both. There's never been a better time to get a Dell. Right now, for the unbelievably low price of just $399 after instant savings, you'll get this Dimension desktop featuring the Intel Celeron processor. It's everything you want in a PC for less than you ever dreamed. Plus, get a free memory upgrade. Notebooks start at just $720. It's only a click or call away. Get more out of now with Dell. Dell PCs use Intel Celeron processors.
More Americans watch CNN than any other news channel. Another reason why CNN is the most trusted name in news.
New fridge? Glacier 2000. Nice. New TV? 60-inch plasma. Very nice. What do you got there, Frank? A toaster? Comcast high-speed internet. Hooked it up myself. For real?
Who wouldn't be impressed by the power of 100% pure broadband?
Can we come over?
Comcast high-speed internet.
Visit these retailers for a great offer.
At Sprint's, you'll find Nashville's most complete rug gallery with over $1.5 million in rugs at incredible prices, including a huge selection of handmade one-of-a-kind rugs and national brands like Karastan. Visit the Sprint's rug gallery today. At Sprint's, you'll find the largest selection of leather in Tennessee, from the most affordable to the most luxurious in every style imaginable. Sofas start at $9.99, and hundreds of items are in stock and ready for immediate delivery. Visit Sprint's today.
When you're looking for a new car, there are a lot of ways you could go. But the best way will get you a great deal on a great car. Toyota Corolla, the most dependable car in its class. Now get 1.9 financing for 36 months on a new 05 Corolla. Or get one of Toyota's best lease deals ever. A well-equipped Corolla for just $159 a month for 36 months with $18.99 due at signing. That's $159 a month for a Corolla. That's a great deal on a great car. See your Toyota dealer before it all ends November 30th.
Are you searching for fabulous deep waterfront property in a stunning, unspoiled setting? Saturday and Sunday, November 13th and 14th, come to the grand opening of Misty Shores, where you can own a spectacular lake access parcel on Lewis Smith Lake for just $19,900. During the grand opening, save 10% on any parcel you select. Plus, enjoy some of the lowest financing ever. Don't miss out. For more information, call 1-800-564-5092. That's 800-564-5092. Call now.
Trust American Morning, where real news makes the difference. CNN Monday, 7 Eastern.
It's been nearly a full week now since the latest assault on the city of Fallujah began. And we're told U.S. and Iraqi forces are working together, now control much, if not all, of the city. Part of our family is in Fallujah as well. There are CNN correspondents and videographers with those troops, and on the streets with them, in harm's way with them. Here are some of the images they've managed to capture inside the fight for Fallujah. In the battle. Well, months after he was killed serving his country in Afghanistan, Arizona State University pays a special tribute to former football player Pat Tillman. Arizona State retired Tillman's number 42 during a football game tonight. He gave up millions of dollars in the NFL to join the Army after the 9/11 attacks. The NFL retired his number in September. And that's all the time we have for you this evening. We leave you tonight with your responses to our last call question. Do you think Scott Peterson should get the death penalty? Here's what some of you had to say. Have a great night.
He was shameless and remorseless, and the reason he's found guilty is that there was no alternative case pointing towards anybody else.
No, I do not. They never did prove that he did it. So I say he should not go get the death penalty till they prove it.
Anytime when you murder a child under the age of 10 or under the age of 12, you deserve to die.
Even though he's guilty, I believe that one bad thing doesn't justify another.
I don't think he should get the death penalty. He was convicted on circumstantial evidence, and there's too much that could be uncovered in later years.
There's not enough evidence. I have a 27-year-old son. I would not want him convicted on that kind of evidence. He probably did it, but there's not enough evidence.
Yes, I think he should get the death penalty for killing his wife and baby Connor. He deserves what he got.
From Philips comes the only flat TV with built-in ambient light technology, which changes color with whatever you're watching, so you are completely surrounded by the experience. The new Philips flat TV with Ambilight.
Okay, when we're all done, I'm calling Mom, Mom calls Glenn, Glenn calls Kim.
I'm calling him.
Glenn calls Kim.
Who's calling me?
I'm calling you.
And I'm calling him.
Exactly.
Wait.
What?
We don't have cell phones. I don't have a cell phone.
Actually, I don't have a cell phone either.
Sign up for the Verizon Wireless Family Share Plan with IN, and the whole family can make unlimited calls to each other and any other Verizon Wireless customer when calling from the America's Choice coverage area. Plus, buy one Samsung A650 for $29.99 and get one free.
Everyone know who they're calling?
No.
Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
The Market Feast from Boston Market. A delicious whole rotisserie chicken, 3 large sides, oven-fresh cornbread, and your choice of a whole apple or pumpkin pie. All just $18.99. Boston Market. We're always cooking.
The all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee. With Quadra-Drive 2, our most advanced four-wheel drive system ever, a 5.7-liter Hemi V8, and our new electronic stability program. The off-road legend continues on-road. Get $1,000 in November bonus cash for a combined cash allowance of $2,000 on Grand Cherokee. America's hottest 4x4s are at your Jeep dealer.
Katie was sure of her cholesterol plan. She took medication, she ate right and ran. Yet it wasn't enough to get bad cholesterol low. What's this? I'm still here in the land of no. Switch to Crestor, her doctor said. You're not to blame. All cholesterol drugs simply aren't the same. When Crestor performed in a head-to-head test, its lowering effect was clearly the best. Crestor's proven effective. That's well understood. Would you like to try it? Why, yes. Yes, I would.
Ask your doctor about Crestor. Crestor is not for everyone, including people with liver disease and women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. Simple blood tests are needed to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor about other medications you are taking, or if you experience muscle pain or weakness, as they may be a sign of serious side effects.
Since Katie switched to Crestor, her cholesterol's much less. With Crestor and diet, it's the land of success. Get your free trial today and you just might declare, I'm a Crestor success. Now you're getting somewhere.
CNN Monday. It's a king-size week with American Idol star Clay Aiken. His first live in-depth interview since his father's death.